Hello, everybody. Welcome to Abnormal Investigations. I hope everybody's doing good tonight. We are on our second night of being live. So I think maybe our third night. I don't know. I have to ask Jessie. She always tells me I get my dates mixed up like I did last night. I was totally out in left field last night. So I've even got a calendar, believe it or not, guys. It doesn't seem to do me a lot of good. I write everything in it and it seems like I forget what I'm doing, anyways. But we will get it figured out. I hope everybody's doing good tonight. I'm having a pretty good day today. Got some good news for everybody that I'll be sharing here in just a little bit. I think we finally got Jessie in here. She was having some computer problems or excuses or something, but I think she's finally made it backstage. We got Mr. Randy's going to be here tonight co-hosting. And we have Harold and Christy from O.C.S.T here tonight going to be joining us. So we're going to be discussing a lot of different things tonight, mainly focusing on the Bigfoot War of Oklahoma. But I'm sure we will probably discuss whatever our ADD takes us down. You never know where we're going to end up on this show or what we're going to end up discussing, but it's always unique. It's always fun. And my iPad seems to be working tonight. So that's going to be even better. I'm excited about that. All right. Let me go ahead and bring Randy and Jessie in. They will be co-hosting tonight. Let's see. There's Jessie. We'll make sure Randy's ready before.
Hello.
What in the world is going on?
Oh my goodness.
Ooh, there you go. Close up. There you go. Don't never let me play with the controls. All right. We got Randy's coming in, I believe. The iPad is actually booting up and working tonight. Can you believe it?
Good thing.
Hey, I'm always happy when something works.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's working completely right now because I'm not seeing what I uploaded, but it is working. So hopefully it will upload it, and there it is. Should be working. So how was your night? How was your day? What's been going on before we jump into all this?
I'm not gonna lie. I slept pretty much all day. I don't know what happened. I passed out last night and I was out. I don't think I've ever slept that hard before, except for when I'm sick. I don't know. I hope I'm not getting sick.
Well, sounds about
It's,
usual.
it's stop it.
Randy, are you with us right now, or are you still trying to get some things figured out? I think Randy was working on something. Uh, to start off tonight's show, guys, I just got a few announcements before I bring Harold and Christy on tonight. Um, one of the main things I really want to talk to everybody about tonight. Please keep D.A. Roberts and his family in your prayers. They're going through a really difficult time. I don't want to go into any of his personal business, but if y'all want to know what's going on, you can go over and watch his live he put out last night, and he explains what's going on with him and his family. But I would like to ask for prayers and to keep him and his family in your thoughts and prayers because they sure need it right now. And go check out his video if you're wondering what he's going through right now. He's going through a really tough time. So we do want to keep DA in our prayers. I got the vehicle running today, got the tires on it, so boots on the ground will be coming up very soon. There's nothing really stopping us right now, Randy, so you're going to be happy about that. Boots on the ground should be any day now, so there's nothing holding us back on the boots on the ground. Should not be if everything continues to work the way it's supposed to. Looks like we got some new faces in here tonight I don't recognize. We got Selena Brown in here tonight. We got Michael Deere. We got Drew. I know Drew. Sharon Guy's in here moderating. Pink Pixie's in here. Did you ever get to talk to Pink Pixie yet? Michael Scott's in here. Romans 116's in here. Not yet. No. She will, Pink Pixie. She will get with you. She has a calendar. It works. Amy, good to see you. Amber, good to see you. Vicky, good to see you. Randy's good to see you. We got a lot of people in here tonight. Good to see everybody. Hope everybody's ready for the show. There's Keith Blunt. Hope I say your name right. I don't mean to butcher it if I do. We are under our first tornado watch of the year here in Oklahoma. And 3 hours ago, Oklahoma got their very first tornado warning in southwest Oklahoma. So already for 2025, Oklahoma has had their first tornado warning. It did not produce a tornado. It was a supercell, but it did produce a tornado warning, our first for the year. So prayers for everybody down there that everybody's okay in southwest Oklahoma. Is there anything, Jesse or Randy, that you would like to add before we start the show tonight?
Not at this time.
Not all at once.
No.
Okay.
No.
Randy, I've been wanting to talk to you. I needed to tell you or ask you something.
Okay.
How was the new countdown? Did you like it?
I actually missed it. My bad.
He worked so hard on that.
No. Randy, I stayed up for you last night and made a new countdown just for you.
I've been having technical difficulties trying to get things working for the show. We've got severe storms. Also low signal on the cell phone. So you lose me, that's why.
Well, we're going to pray that you're able to stay with us through the night and that the storms miss you. All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead, and if you would, please welcome O.C.S.T, Harold, and Christy to the show.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Welcome. Good to see you guys.
Good to see y'all, too.
Everything, y'all missing the storms and everything down there?
We got a little bit of rain.
Thundered earlier, but nothing.
Yeah. Hopefully we don't get much more than that.
Christy, at least y'all ain't flooding. That's always at least y'all ain't flooding.
Shush your face. Call. I have to go to work tomorrow.
Y'all have a boat?
Nope.
Life jackets?
Nope.
Uh-oh.
We'd be
Hope you can tread a long time.
We have cats and dogs.
Uh-oh. Go for the dogs. I think they may float better. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm sure the cats hate the water anyway, so hey.
You know what's weird? My little nephew the other night went and gave our cat a bath, and she loved it.
Oh, yeah.
Some cats do like it.
She loved it.
Yeah.
Some cats
I was like, he's like, I'm going to give her a bath. I was like, I don't know if I'd try that. He's like, no, she'll like it. Like, she might eat your face off.
Some cats will claw out your face, yeah.
I couldn't believe it. The only thing left I got to say, guys, is yes, we are going to be live tomorrow night again, and it's going to be another investigation that I took. And then I think we're going to give you all a small break until what we got coming up. I may try to go boots on the ground before the 8th. I know the 8th we've got Chris Cyrus coming on. Is that right?
Yeah. Hold on,
so
let me
before
check
the 8th, I may go boots on the ground.
calendar.
So we may be able to. We may be able to, squeeze a boots on the ground in. I sure want to. All right, so Harold, I've done a lot of studying and looking up on this Oklahoma Bigfoot War, and there's a lot of information out there from a lot of different sources.
Yeah,
it must have been a pretty big deal. What was it, 1830s, around the same time as the Trail of Tears, correct?
It is 1855.
Okay, 1855.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you're right. 1830s is whenever they were pulled off the reservations. I'll get with it here in a second. I'm a little slow tonight.
Well, considering it's called the Bigfoot War of 1855. Just saying.
Is that what it's named? I just heard it called the. I think we're having a little bit of difficulties here. Let me see. Oh wait, no, everything's good.
Wow.
See what I have to put up with.
So I had a little statement that I got some things down, and I thought we could go through them and get your and Christy's opinion, and Jesse's always got an opinion, and get Randy's opinion, and we could kind of go through this Bigfoot war and kind of see what's going on. So what I found, and if any of this is different than what you found, Harold, let me know, because what I found, it says the Choctaw, a Native American tribe, originally inhabited the southeastern United States. They were renowned for being great warriors. They were great hunters. Their skills on the battlefield were honed through centuries of intertribal conflicts and later through their participation in the colonial era wars and the American Revolutionary War. So they were a pretty organized tribe. Seems like they had pretty fierce warriors.
Right. And by the time they made it to Oklahoma, after 1,500 of them died on the Trail of Tears, they started colonizing with the white settlers that would come through. So they were pretty civilized to a point, as much as the Indian tribes would have been possible to be civilized back then. Civilized meaning,
So it's almost like,
yeah,
as being, what was it, the Indian Removal Act?
right.
It's almost, whenever I was reading it, or kind of what I came to the conclusion is the Native Americans, the Choctaw, the Cherokee, when they were placed on the Trail of Tears and they were moved to Oklahoma, to the area to where they had this war, it's almost like the natives kind of were forced to trespass on the Sasquatch's territory. It wasn't like the Sasquatch went to the natives, but the American government forced the natives to go to where the Sasquatch were at. And I was wondering, do you think that had anything to do with maybe them placing them there and hoping they would eradicate them or take care of them?
It could have been that. I know that the white man was wanting to settle westward, and what an easier way to pre-plan by having a group of people go out into the wilderness to experience it themselves, and then you gather data that way. It's a harmful way to do things.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, let's throw them in there and kind of see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that kind of happened a lot, I think, back then. I think that was what they really liked to do.
Yeah, when you have
on
all the other settlements before, when the Pilgrims came in and they settled alongside the Indians, there was a lot of things that would happen to them. So these white settlements knew that if they went further west, they would run into more things like that. They would have more people disappear. So there's a lot of bad things about what happened to the Indians, and that's one of them.
Do we plan on actually going through and talking about? I just wonder how many people in the chat are familiar with the Bigfoot War, if they're familiar with it, or if everybody kind of is up to speed on it, or what. Were we planning on actually talking about what happened, like going through? I'm just asking.
Like you talking, like what we're fixing to get into is the actual war, the cause of the war, the aftermath of the war, and was it folklore? Did it really happen? Is parts of it real? Is parts of it incorrect?
Okay. And I was just wondering, because going back through myself, I was familiar with, after rereading it again, I was familiar with hearing it, but I hadn't heard this story or revisited it. It's been a while since I was actually up to speed on it, so that's why I was kind of wondering.
Jess, there's like 10 million things on YouTube for this thing. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah.
I think he's watched every
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but that's why I was just wondering for like the people in the chat and stuff, because like Mike was teasing me last night and asking me if I had done my homework on it, and I'm like, no,
He's teasing me.
ADD, I cram at the last minute. So, but then after I went back and watched, I'm going, oh yes, I do remember this.
He
Okay.
was teasing me tonight, like a half hour or an hour and a half before the show. Did you study? Did you blah blah blah? And I'm like, no, not really,
Just
because you've
winging
been
it.
watching it for the last day and a half. I think I got some part.
Hi, everyone.
Well, what?
Hello.
Okay.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing good. I'm just happen to hang out with Jesse. You know how that is.
Yeah. I won't talk anything bad about Jess, though.
He said,
Respect
yeah,
Thank
back,
you.
Jess.
that's a good guy.
Yeah.
What I did find out, and this is just a theory, another opinion of mine after watching it, Harold.
Mhm.
A lot of people talk about bloodlines and having these encounters. So if you go back, the first interactions and the people that had the most interactions with Sasquatch were the Cherokee and the Choctaw. It even says from many of the Cherokee, many of the Choctaw said, we not only shared things, traded things, spoke, lived alongside one another, but we shared the same language. I thought that was really, really interesting because does the bloodline of that have anything to do with the encounters that people have, or was it because the natives were still a little bit wild and still living in the wild and were more connected with, you know,
Well, I think
the
it's a little bit of both.
nature?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, like nowadays, you don't have to be indigenous to form a connection, um, but you do have to be connected with nature. You have to have some kind of connection with nature, or Bigfoot's basically going to ignore you. They're unless you become a harm, they're not going to have anything to do with you. You know, and I think the Bigfoot
Right, because
realized that those people had a connection, and they were able to come together. um you know, you have your bad factions of both. You know, both sides have bad factions. Well, you have cannibals from the Bigfoot, or giants, if they were giants or Bigfoot, or combination of the two. um like they have the distinct differences, like in southern Oklahoma and Arkansas. You have the Gugwe. The Gugwe are known to be meat eaters. They're known to be more aggressive, to where they eat meat more than they eat plants. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
another thing that was really fascinating to me was the fact that, and I've heard these through, you know, my grandpa was full blood Cherokee, and there's a lot of native in my family, and a lot of the stories that were passed down was they were enough human, you know, and a lot of people I think look at these creatures as creatures and monsters, and the Indians, the natives, they had a different view of them. To them, they weren't a monster. They were not this fictional character that was running around in the woods. They were real because they dealt with them every day on a personal basis. But then, you know, kind of like what my grandpa and my granny and all them had told me, they were so human like that instead of calling them like, a pack of dogs or, how we would refer to an animal, they were clans. Whenever they would eat a settler, a farmer, or an Indian, they were not an animal that ate them. It was cannibalism.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever they would trade with them, it was not as if they were trading with a monster. There was an understanding. They would trade medicinal plants to us. They would give us food. We would give them food. They said some of the main things that, what I was told that they actually wanted from the Indians, the Sasquatch wanted from the Indians, was not really our medicinal plants, because they could get that on their own. They didn't care nothing about the weapons. That wasn't important to them. But what they did want was the furs. They were more interested in the furs than they was anything else. And it kind of makes sense. It's like maybe they were trying to stay warm, maybe to keep their children warm. I think that's probably was more of their concern, because do you really need a bow and arrow whenever you weigh 1,500 pounds and you can grab somebody and just twist their head off?
Right.
And
you can run as fast or faster than most of the prey that you go after.
you can outrun their horses. It's, and then on the language, Harold, what's your opinion on the language? How do you think we spoke the same language as them? How do you believe that came about? And I'll get all your all's opinion on that, because that really did interest me, that part. How did we talk the same?
Well, that had to be from meeting on multiple occasions, multiple times a year, and sitting down and actually learning. So if you're going to learn from something that's a big monster, they have to have some kind of intelligence. If you consider them a monster, they're not going to be as intelligent as these creatures are known to be. So yeah, they spoke the same language to break that barrier. They learned each other's language to break the barrier to be more civilized between each other. That's my opinion.
Jesse?
I have no opinion on that.
No opinion? Randy?
No.
I have an opinion on that.
Christy, what's your opinion?
Christy, go ahead. You have the floor.
Well, okay, so I know that there are other Native American elders that can speak to the Sasquatch or creatures, and I believe that the Sasquatch learned the Native American languages, or they conversed way before the whole War of 1855. Even I think the Native American and the creatures were in cahoots, I guess you want to call it, because they do know how to talk to each other. They have known how to talk to each other for a long time.
They were familiar.
Yeah.
With,
I don't think it just happened in 1855. There could have been way more than just this war, but this one is the only one that's, I guess, more famous or whatever. But I'm thinking that they know or had known how to communicate with the Native Americans, and the Native Americans knew how to communicate with the creatures, because the creatures have been here all along.
Yeah. That, and you take into effect that the tribes of the East may not have had contact with as many different creatures as, say, your Aztecs, Mayans, and then the Comanche, because they branched out a lot further than a lot of the other tribes, so they had more chances to make contact. So Bigfoot could have learned a similar language, and then it was easier for them to communicate with the tribes of the East by that time. That's a possibility.
Right.
I've even
Randy,
heard where
the question. Oh, sorry.
I was praying for somebody. My bad. I couldn't answer your question. Somebody in the
Oh, you're okay.
prayer. What was your question, Mike?
How do you think the Indians and the Sasquatch were able to share the same language? How did
Because
they
they're highly
understand the
intelligent.
same language?
I believe that they're highly intelligent because they're descendants of the fallen angels, their children, and they have access to higher ways of thought and knowledge. I think they're born with because of who they are from and who their fathers may be, in my opinion. So therefore, they probably know all languages that humans speak. And that's
Right.
Mm.
Jesse?
I have heard situations too where people have claimed that, especially up in Canada and such, that some of the Sasquatch, Bigfoot, actually have a older dialect of the native languages up there. So, and for them to maintain that would also kind of raise the question of where the languages all came from originally too. So,
Yeah.
and for them to continue to speak that older dialect.
I think my opinion lies kind of with what Christy said, and then what with Randy said. Like what Christy said, she believes that they had spoken this language way before, just the 1830s, 1850s. And I believe that it does come with the knowledge of the possibility of them being from the fallen angels. I believe that the Tower of Babel had a whole lot to do with a whole array of the languages that were shared and understood. We have to remember, if it be the case, and this is opinion, this is only opinion, if it be the case that that's how it came, we have to remember that the fathers of these creatures were here during it all. So they would understand a lot more than what we would, for sure. That's just my opinion. And Harold, if there's anything you want to add, or
Yeah, it's like this could be a whole other show, but like Jess said,
yeah,
the ancient language. Well, you go back to like I said with the Aztecs and the Mayans, okay? Then you make the connection with Egypt, with the pyramids, okay? So that could be a whole other show, to where we talk about the connection to the giants, possible Bigfoot, and then those ancient civilizations learning how to build, or actually having someone else build for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it can
right.
connect in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I that's what I think too. I think it all goes back to the beginning. I think that they're all connected back to Genesis, if you will. It all comes from that area. And like what Harold said, if we go into that, we'll be here all night long. That just it can we may have to have Christy stay on and make sure that we don't lose power. Christy, you're well diversed in this, so we're going to be picking on you a little bit tonight. I'll throw you under the bus a little bit.
Wait a second. What? Don't throw me under nothing.
So, as they were trading with one another, everything was going good. And the stories that I heard from the Cherokees, from my family, the Choctaw, it all seems to correspond. It all seems to match. They said that they did get along. They did trade food, but something happened. Now, there's a lot of discussion on what happened, a lot of different beliefs on what had happened. But we know something happened that caused these big feet, Sasquatch, to start stealing women and children. And what a lot of people don't understand is they weren't just stealing the native women and children, they were stealing the farmers and, you know, the people that lived around too. It wasn't just the natives that were suffering this. So something during that time happened that caused them to start taking the women and children. And
Yeah,
the only
because
thing that I could come up with, Harold, was
I was going to say that they first started just stealing their food and some of their supplies.
Yeah.
And then it slowly led into taking the women and children.
do you think it was the overpopulation of moving the Indians in that the food chain was deprived and they started running out of things to eat, so they started improvising?
Yeah, the amount of food that they would intake, they probably started feeling the effects and were having to resort to stealing. Yeah.
Now, here's something that I thought,
Because
and
I mean,
I don't know if any of you had noticed the timeline in it of when it had happened between the food being taken and the women and children being taken. But from everything that I was reading, kind of putting together the timeline, and let me know if you think that this could have been a possibility. But the food that was being taken, they started putting out guards and doing traps and stuff to try and keep them from taking their food. It was after that the women and children started to be taken. And one of the many of the things that I was reading too is that tribe also believed that women that were on their cycle were to be placed outside of the tribe as well. And I didn't see anything that stated those were the women and children that were being taken, but I kind of wonder if being readily available and outside of the tribe, away from everybody, as a payback, not necessarily as food themselves, but as a payback, they were going to take those kids. That's a thought, theory. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I would agree. They saw that the tribe was upping the ante, so to speak. They were aware. So then the Bigfoot had thought that they had to resort to much crueler tactics.
Yeah, it just made me think because, typically when anybody ever does have problems, it always seems like once they realize and you're trying to capture them or get them on film or of the sort, that's usually when things escalate.
Well, when a people are desperate, they will resort to stealing and it gets out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
And since these creatures are more human like than any other species besides man, they would tend to have the same tendencies when it comes to being desperate.
Mm-hmm.
Survival of their clans.
Speaking about their communications,
it reminds
and
me of. Go ahead, Randy.
speaking of these things communicating and video recording them, I've had firsthand experience of trying to get them on camera, and then, well, the next few days was pure hell. They tormented the hell out of us. And then on the third day, I'm outside in the daytime, and all of a sudden I hear, if you don't want us messing around your house, don't come messing around our house. And I'm looking around, and there's nothing around me. Nobody around me. But that the last 3 days as this communication was going on, replayed as this communication was going on. So that telekinesis does exist. I've experienced it firsthand with these creatures.
Yep.
They do not like to be videotaped or recorded.
And it also reminds me of what Scott Carpenter said. Scott Carpenter said that he believed these creatures to be very narcissistic, very self-centered, and they don't like to be told no. So it seems like a lot of problems that a lot of people have is not necessarily the interactions that you're having with them, but it's whenever we tell them no, or we keep something from them that they want. It's kind of like you're dealing with a overgrown child that doesn't want to be told no. And it's like whenever you
Yep.
do that, to them there is a, vengeance. They're going to pay you back for what you're doing. Like whenever I shot the thing down in the hog pasture, it had never bothered anything at the house, none of the animals, anything else. But then whenever you do that, chops off a pig's head, sticks it on the post. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, if you're going to tell us no, then we're going to throw a tantrum, and there's nothing worse than a 1,500-pound creature being mad at you throwing a temper tantrum. And it just I agree with what Scott Carpenter stated. Is it seems that they are very narcissistic, and if it ain't about them, we're not looking for them, we're not talking about them, we're not trying to film them and give them the spotlight. That's when they start throwing the twigs at us, the rocks at us. That's when they start making their calls at us. They're saying, hey, I'm over here, film me. Ain't that right, Christy?
And they don't like to be mocked. And they don't like to be mocked, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah. I recommend do not threaten to switch one of them in the woods. It doesn't turn out the way you want it to. They will fight back.
So you think?
And they're a hell of a lot,
Go ahead.
they're
go
a
ahead.
hell of a lot stronger than you. I would not want to get into melee combat with these creatures. No way. Not with my bare hands and your strength. That would not be a good mix.
And there's something that we're going to talk about in just a little bit that I want to talk to Harold about that really threw me off during this war. And I really look for your all's opinions on this because it blew my mind when I found this. But what was you going to say, Christy? I know you were saying something.
I was going to say, so you think that they retaliated after they started protecting their food so they wouldn't eat it anymore? So they decided to take the women and the children and kill them? I mean, that were not protected so far away from their clan. They were moved away from because they're on their cycle, they moved them away. They weren't protected out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think since the Native Americans and the settlers started protecting their food and not so much their women and children, that the creatures went totally crazy and started killing the women and children, and that's what caused all of this.
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Because I think
Mike,
mostly what happened was,
that story from yesterday night. They are the 2 nights ago where they blocked off the horse feed, blocked it down, and put lights and cameras on it. And then the attacks got much more aggressive after they picked up their food supply. And that's an actual true story. So, I mean, it's a possibility.
And like what Christy said, I don't think it's just the part that they told them no. I think they were hungry and it was being told. It's kind of like, if you're hungry and somebody's got food and they won't let you have it, you're going to be angry because you can't have that food. You're going to become more aggressive because I'm sure they had children that they wanted to feed to make sure that they were not hungry. So they probably even had the feeling of, what, we were here first. These people showed up. They're eating all of our food. We can't take care of our children no more. Now they're taking our food and they're locking it away from us and we can't even eat. And when we do try to get it, they're trying to trap us and they're trying to kill us. So you know what? We'll just start eating them. And You know, Harold, I want your opinion on this. Do you believe the women were took to be bred, or do you think they were took as a food source?
Well, the account says that there were 19 children that were slain. Uh, there's not a clear account on the women, so you could speculate that quite possibly some of the women were taken, because they didn't say that all of the kidnapped were recovered. They just said 19 children. So
Right.
one could speculate that maybe some of the women were taken for breeding purposes.
Do you think there's a possibility that maybe that's where the feral people come from?
Quite possibly, because I know of many accounts where researchers have come up on um, Bigfoot and women and children dancing and playing um, out in the middle of nowhere, and those women and children looked feral. You know, they were uh, slightly unkept and wearing furs. So yeah, it's quite possible.
And it makes sense whenever you say wearing the furs, because they said that's what they were mainly interested in the trading was for the furs. They were, they wasn't really interested in the food. And then on a lot of the accounts I was looking at, it said that, the settlers, the farmers, and the tribes, they all said that they witnessed these Sasquatch take their women and take their children and just walk off into the woods and vanish, nonchalantly, like, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And that's whenever they started instituting, like, early morning, late night, women and children were in the house at a certain time, the doors were locked. These people really started living in terror, because they would say that there was this one incident I found that there was this lady for some reason, and we know that these creatures will kind of imprint on certain people, and they had tried to abduct this guy's wife like 3 or 4 times. Luckily, she had escaped all 3 or 4 times out in the garden, but one particular night when they were sitting in the front room, you can only imagine the strength of one of these creatures. It reached through the wall, grabbed her, and took her. Like, they were tired of playing. It was time for her. They were taking her.
Hmm.
Well, it goes to the aspect that they can cloak. They can go anywhere.
Hmm.
They could go through the wall. So if all the women and
Right.
children per se it was locked up between such and such time to such and such time, from like dawn until dusk or whatever, Bigfoot or the creatures can still cloak. They can go in your house. They can do whatever. They can follow you home. So if the creatures or the Bigfoot really want the women and children, or the women, or just the children, they can cloak and take them, and then have no. My opinion.
Yeah, like one of the accounts for this story we're talking about, um, there was a woman that went outside her teepee to hang her laundry, and she left her daughter in in her bed in the teepee. And when she went back in the teepee, her daughter was gone. There was no sign of struggle, no tear in the teepee, but she was gone. So how would that happen if there's no way for this child to run out without being noticed, or something enter the teepee from the door? You know.
You know, it's scary enough to know that our children are targeted. That's, that's what really, really bothers me. And, you know, there's so many speculations out there that that their hairs, are able to be controlled by them. The hair on their body they can move, kind of like a cat does. They're able to move the hair on their body. And a lot of people believe that, I think D.A. Roberts is the one that actually came up with this, that they have what they call adaptive camouflage, to where they can move their hair. Their hairs are translucent, and they're able to, if you will, mirror their surroundings. And that's why whenever we use a camera to try to take a photograph of them, a camera, when something's moving, or, somebody is running or throwing a ball, and you take that picture, you still get that photograph of that individual, but it's blurred because of the movement. And if these creatures are able to move the hairs on their body, like we, suspect, we have to suspect, it's all opinionated, that they can do that, then that would make up a really good, I think, at least opinion, that's why we get a lot of these blurry photos, is because their hairs are constantly moving, and they're constantly absorbing into their environment. They are constantly, and they're not hiding just from us. I mean, I'm sure they have other predators in the woods,
Right.
or even for hunting, hunting reasons, stealth would be very important. So they're probably, a lot of times when they're moving, and then you get those good still photos that people get, and maybe that's whenever they're in that relaxation mode, to where they're not worried, they're not hunting, they feel at peace. So then people are able to get those photographs. But can you imagine if you stepped outside at night, say Christy went outside,
Not
and
happening.
you hear you hear, like, like something in the bush, like we do many times, and you look over at the bush and the wind ain't blowing, but the leaves are falling, and you heard something in the bush. Is there something in that bush that is adaptively camouflaged into that bush that is watching you?
Probably. Seriously, I believe that they. Okay, different story, but just, was it yesterday we were outside?
Yeah.
Yesterday afternoon. I actually walked. Keep in mind, I don't go in my backyard. I don't. It's creepy to me. And there ain't nothing back there but pasture land on the other side of our barbed wire fence. And it's open. It's not heavily wooded. I mean, there's trees there, but it's not heavily wooded or anything like that. So there's no need for me to be frightened by any means. There's nothing there. But I actually walked to the edge or the end of the edge of our trailer house the other day, and politely just said, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just looking. Because I know for a fact that they patrol, the creatures, the Bigfoot, whatever, they patrol our backyard.
Yeah,
So-
like last night at the end of y'all's show, I mentioned in the chat that there was a Bigfoot out in the backyard. Well,
I remember you saying that. Yeah.
it was while y'all's show was on, and I was talking to my brother on the phone. I went outside and I fed the cats. Well, I heard the leaves rustling, like there was somebody walking through the leaves, because we still have leaves piled up back there. So they're walking through the leaves, and then when I look, they stop. And I don't have my flashlight, so I can't see nothing back there. So I don't dare walk back that way. So I'm standing there, and our cat, Morris, he's very aware of these things. They've made him so touchy that the slightest sound, he's like, but he will do that. He'll hear this thing walking back there, and he'll stop, and he'll turn and look back in that corner. Well, I knew that something had walked out far enough to where I should have seen it, but there was nothing there. So I've had several several occasions where something is walking right in front of me out there, and I've snapped pictures, and it just looks like maybe lines in the pictures, but when you change the color spectrum, you see a Bigfoot face.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
no, I know that they can cloak, whether it's the hairs moving, or they have the same adaptability as a chameleon. They have a way to cloak. They have a way to hide. And a creature like that needs something like that in order to survive as long as they have.
Reminds me of when I was talking about the National Guard chasing one, down the Verdigris River over here, and they're using FLIR, and we know that the FLIR on their choppers is not going to be some Walmart FLIR. I mean, they're using, some of the top stuff, and whenever they say we're having trouble keeping up with it and finding it, and then all of a sudden it disappears, I mean, something unnatural's going on. I mean, you're not chasing a normal predator or person whenever it's able to just be, you're moving through the river bottoms, all the trees and the swamp and the driftwood and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And for it to be moving that fast over it and under it and around it in the pitch black and then just disappear.
Yeah. Like
That's
in,
not
in
normal.
many of the stories I've heard on this subject we're talking about, these warriors, they were tracking these things, and they went as far as 8 hours before they stopped, and they had to really stop and look around to pick up their traces of where they were, because their footprints would stop. So they had to go further without noticing any sign of them, just to try to pick up another sign of them. And luckily they would, like broken twigs and things like that. But a lot of the times their footprints would just stop, and there would be no other sign of them for a couple of miles.
The thing that gets me is that it took them over 8 hours to get to wherever the creatures were. That's what blows my mind.
Which was probably just a jaunt in the woods to them.
Right, but
Right.
8 hours, plus they had to stop and rest, so it could have been even longer than that.
Right.
I mean, and it was like probably, southwest or southeast Oklahoma in the summertime, so it's blazing hot, and it's even hotter down there with the humidity. So I would say 95 to 100 degrees.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to stop and rest their horses and themselves.
Yeah.
So who knows if the creatures weren't watching them then? And they could have been easily if they can't be noticed. So
just waiting for them to arrive. Yeah.
Or another thought is why didn't they attack them then during the daylight instead of at whatever time it was?
I think again, and no, you are making very good sense, because I like it when you do that, because it makes me think, because whenever you said that, what it really brought to my mind is back to my opinion of the moon phases. They're going to take advantage of every advantage they can have. If their eyes are better than low light than ours, why not fight somebody in low light and have all of your senses heightened that are better than ours and have full advantage, than fight us to where we have a little bit of an advantage, because they said they got tired of their women and children were getting taken. So the Choctaw, they assembled a bunch of warriors,
right?
And I found two different things. I seen that they also had some Cherokee warriors with them. They had some Tubby people with them, and they decided, you know what, it's time to go get our women and children back. And whenever they're starting to come up on, I guess, where these Sasquatch were located, the smell that hit them before they ever even got up there was like so pungent. It describes people like, falling off their horses, throwing up. I mean, this had to be a terrible, terrible smell. And then what was it?
And
They came up on a pile of bodies, wasn't it?
yeah, and the smell was so horrible that even a lot of the warriors' horses were turning away and bucking them off and just not wanting to go forward.
Except for the ones that the Tubby and the Lafort or whatever. Lafort? Yeah. Lafort. The guy. Their horses were, I guess, trained much more efficient to listen to them and not their senses, I guess, so to speak. So the horses and the main warriors, I call them the main
Were those
warriors.
the light horsemen?
Yeah.
Yeah, the light horsemen. Yeah, because them being the lead warriors, those horses had a lot more experience than the other warriors' horses, because the other warriors were younger and less experienced.
I
Do you
guess
think
it would
it
be
could
no
have been?
different than taking a young hunting dog compared to a senior hunting dog into the woods with you. So
Yeah.
Do you think it could have been a combination of the smell of death and maybe the smell of their marking their territory also that the horses might have noticed?
Yeah, because you can imagine that being them being an animal out in the woods. You know, it's just like when we go camping. It's like, oh, I got to go to the bathroom, so pick a tree. You know?
Right. And if you do that on the same tree in the same area for a long time, there's going to become an odor.
Yeah.
what are you going to say, Chris?
So here's
Not to mention the feces building up of the feces and the drying in the hot air. Yeah.
No.
Now this is what really threw me off. This is one of the parts that I was looking at that really made me wonder some things. And I'm going to ask all of y'all your opinions, even you, Randy. When I was reading this, what really threw me off is the Tubby people. To me, there's something up with these Tubby people. I don't think these are normal people because they're talking about they're large, they're gigantic, they're huge. They 300 plus pounds each. They were a clan. They were imposing. They were battle ridden. These were some of their weapons. They said that the natives couldn't hardly pick up with two hands, that these Tubby people were wielding with one hand. What were these Tubby people? What are they? These are not normal people.
And they were light on their feet, and they were very well adjusted on their horses. They could adjust even better than the smaller warriors. You know how the warriors would lean on the side of the saddle, go down, right, so they could fire their bow and arrow or their gun. Well, these guys were able to do that plus, and they're that big, you know.
So what do you think they were? Do you think these were normal, just bigger people, or do you think they were something else?
It's quite possible they could have been something else, like maybe a bloodline of something that had mixed within their tribe at one point, maybe. I mean,
what do you think, possible. Christy?
There's I have no comment
that,
on this one. I mean,
there's that under the bus throw.
Thanks. I really don't know, because I have no idea.
Jesse?
I think they could have been. A couple of the other things that I was reading, like I was saying earlier, one of the reports that I had read was that the lightweight and the Tubby were actually two different groups or entities. So if that could be what it was, but I mean, even the way they were saying that's the way they were trained, they were able to just put one foot off the horse so that when they would, as the horses were running, they could actually just step right off the horse and keep running. And it gave them that momentum and the stability and the strength to take down their opponents. So, but the Tubby clan was the father sons. So if that was a bloodline trait that was passed down, that would be more believable or more what's the word I'm looking for? Acceptable, I guess, or understandable. If that was a family trait that was passed down by something otherworldly, such as maybe through the another line of Sasquatch or something. I don't know.
Sasquatch or giant
Mm-hmm.
of some sort. Yeah.
Through some sort of Nephilim bloodline.
What?
Yeah.
What do you think, Randy?
What was the question? I've been deep in chat.
Randy's not.
Yeah,
Very
the
good
Tubby people.
in chat, by the way. I apologize about that. Go ahead, Mike. The question.
The Tubby people, how large they were, how they were able to move the way they moved, the weapons they used. The natives had trouble picking up with two hands. They wielded them with one hand. They were mighty warriors. But do you think that is a normal native clan or people, or do you think there's more to it than that?
They were probably a hybrid race, mixed with human and probably something else. Possibly fallen angel or Bigfoot or part where, who knows. But they probably weren't 100% human. My best guess. They were probably some
I guess they
hybrid
could have
race.
been I guess they could have been the offspring of the women that were stolen from the Bigfoot.
Maybe.
Well, would that not be a twist in a story?
Mm-hmm.
I think they became Oklahoma Scooby Snacks, my opinion. If you're eaten by a monster, you're an Oklahoma Scooby Snack. Just thought I'd share that.
Sorry.
Ellen had asked, and I don't know if it was ever answered, why we're calling them Tubby people. And Ellen, it's because it was Hamas. I don't know if I pronounced his name right. Hamas Tubby or Tubbe, and his 6 sons. So that's who we're referring to.
The spelling of it, some people would say Tubby. But it's
Do we have any descriptions of these people? How tall they were? How big? Do we have any information on them?
About 7 feet tall.
Some of them were between 300 to 400 pounds, depending on if I remember correctly. The guys. So 7 foot, 300, 400 pound men on horses. The horses have to be 17, 18 hands to hold something like that.
I can't remember. How tall is Shaq? Yeah. How tall is Shaquille O'Neal?
7.
I don't even.
Yeah,
he's 7.
He's 7
Connor,
foot.
how tall is Shaq?
Okay.
He would know.
I believe he's 7 foot.
Okay, because that's usually
Hello,
what I
Gene.
imagine
Good
when
to
I
see you
think
tonight.
of people like that. Would be like, imagine 7 Shaquille O'Neals riding a horse coming at you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. And then be able to lift something
7 feet 1 inch.
7 foot.
There we go.
Yep. Thanks, CJ.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So these are massive, not normal sized men by no means.
Yeah.
No, Shaquille was not. Andre was 7'4". Andre the Giant.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Shaq starred in Shark Week, and they had to build a special shark suit because he wouldn't fit in anything that they had pre-made.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you know, another thing too is it says whenever they were riding into battle, they found dozens of women and children. Their bodies were twisted and broken in grotesque ways of violence and savagery, half eaten, almost as if they were a pile of leftovers. Among the grisly scene, 3 enormous hair-covered creatures were crouched over the corpses. Their muzzles, that's what gets me right there, their muzzles. And we're going to break this down a little bit because their muzzles stained with blood and human flesh. Now, whenever I read that, I thought of something, and the Wolf Lady, thank God you're still in here because you're probably going to enjoy this. It makes sense. Oh, okay, Oklahoma, you had the Girl Scout murder is what I done also. I spoke to the shaman. They say all these are the same thing. Some have muzzles, some don't. You know, the werewolf, the dogman, the Sasquatch, the, you know, whatever you want to call them. They said they're all the same thing. Some have muzzles, some don't. Some dogs do, some dogs don't. Some are big, some are small.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you listen to the description that these soldiers are given, they're saying almost exactly what the Cherokee shaman are saying. Because they said some of these creatures presented muzzles. Some of these creatures did not have muzzles. They had more of a flat face. So right there is following what the shaman were saying. And then the way the bodies were twisted up in grotesque ways. Now, out of respect to the Girl Scout murders and what I found out doing that, those little girls would match that description very well. So these things were so powerful, they're so big, so strong, that they're just grabbing us and pretty much just making a pretzel out of you. I mean, they are just like manhandle, you know, the old saying manhandle you. And, you know, it said that there was, you know, what was it? There was 3 enormous ones that was crouched over. So they had to even be eating from the dead when they rode up out of this stink that stunk so bad. These creatures are sitting there eating off of that. So imagine just, I could see how the soldiers would have problem pushing on because, I mean, you're looking at loved ones, you're looking at children. They've been out there, you know, God knows how long, weeks, like what Christy said, 9,500 degrees. They're going to be part mummified and bloated. And I mean, it's going to be a horrendous scene.
Mm-hmm.
And these creatures are there feasting on them. And I could see how that would make you want to turn and run. I mean, do you really want to fight something that's capable of doing that?
Well, you also have to remember if you look at the account of it, that Lafort didn't make it very far. The creature ripped his head off. It was the Tubby people, or the Tubby, the White Horsemen or Light Horsemen, whatever, men are the ones that actually killed the creatures, the 2 creatures, and then the one beheaded the other one. But the way I remember it, or seen whatever, watching with Harold, yes, I was watching him, but the fort guy actually had the binocular or whatever, the seeing eye thing, to actually see what was out there. There was only 3 over the people, but there was more in the background.
Mm-hmm.
More creatures in the background.
Yes.
People are in the woods. So whatever Lafort saw and made them charge, if he would have waited and just went in there normally instead of charging them, maybe a different outcome as well.
Maybe.
Right, but
because it says, you know, the sight of these monstrous beings made even the strongest of the light horsemen for a moment, even the bravest among them, hesitated, struggling to comprehend the sheer wrongness of the creatures before them. But as the initial shock wore off, it was replaced with rage and a primal urge of avenging their family that they purged in and attacked this abomination.
Mhm.
Well, you can imagine Lefort, his what he looked upon was probably one of the children being mutilated, and knowing that his child was taken, because his daughter was taken also. She was one of the ones that were taken. So that enraged him to the point to where he led the charge. So
He was consumed with, I'm sure, avenging his child's death. I mean,
As
I
any
could only
parent would
imagine the
be.
anger that he had.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he didn't survive.
And then,
That's
well,
really
it goes on with, it says, with a fierce cry, Joshua LaFleur spurred his horse forward, drawing his pistol and saber as he charged toward the nearest creature. The beast, caught off guard by the sudden attack, barely had time to react before LaFleur was upon it, his blade flashing in a dappled sunlight. But even as the Choctaw leader rained blows upon the monster and emptied his pistol into it, which would have been a black powder, it says cap and gun. It says not by today's standards. It seemed to shrug off the wounds with terrifying ease, its hide as tough as the bark of the oak, but the creature did shed red blood.
and that also stated in some of the accounts that I listened to that the creature one blow to the horse and it was dead. The horse, if my memory serves me correctly, because then it knocked him off his horse because the horse is dead, and that's I think kind of what raged him as well. I would think anyway. Anybody knock me off a horse, I'd be ticked off as all. Too. I mean, come on.
Right. And then, it says, as LaFleur and the creature grappled in a desperate hand-to-hand struggle, the rest of the light horsemen finally sprang into action. The Tubby warriors, armed with their massive, and this is another thing, 50 caliber Sharps buffalo rifles, took aim at the remaining beasts, their shots echoing through the forest like thunder. One by one, the creatures fell, their bodies riddled with gaping wounds. So these
Just to let
Tubby
people
or
know,
Tubbies,
just to let people know, that caliber of a rifle can take down a full-grown buffalo with one shot.
Mm-hmm.
they're what are they, like the 45 110, the 45 70? It'd be somewhere along in there in those calibers.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Quigley Down Under.
Yeah.
It says, but the victory was short-lived. To the Choctaws' horror, the creature battling LaFleur, this is crazy right here, guys. I don't get this. Y'all are probably gonna, well, I'll get your opinions on this, but the creature that was battling LaFleur suddenly lunged forward, its powerful jaws clamping down on the warrior's head and twisting violently. With a sickening crack, LaFleur's lifeless body crumpled to the ground and his head torn from his shoulders, remaining in the creature's mouth. How big of a mouth did this creature have?
Yeah, you figure the creature is about 10 feet tall, shoulders 4 to 4.5 feet wide. Yeah. Now I can tell you this: the 9 foot tall Bigfoot that I saw up close, it's quite possible she could get at least part of a human head in her mouth. From the way she looked at me and moved her mouth, It looked wide enough to where she could have at least bit the top of my head.
Ew.
I mean, this thing literally bit his head off.
To me, to think about it, I would think he was more of a hybrid creature.
Yeah.
You think about it when you said snout and
The muzzle.
the muzzle, the biting off the head. I mean, you've seen like some. Not going to say it was a dog man creature, but dogs that have really, they can bite something good. I mean, now figure that 10 times the size of a normal dog with the stature of a ape, like.
Yeah, like a lot of accounts nowadays, you'll hear about Dogman running with Sasquatch. So it's quite possible that those may not have been part of the actual clan. They were guarding the clan, and it was their turn to feed.
Do you think it's possible that the shaman that I spoke to are right, and all of these are the same thing? They just look different, some of them? Do you think that's possible?
It's possible. I mean, I know that they quite possibly somewhere down the line they had to have interbred because of the similarities. Like again, like the one that I saw standing right next to the Sasquatch. It had the head of a dog and the body of a Sasquatch. So it's quite possible it could have just been
Even more hybrid.
messed up genetics.
Yeah.
Could have been the same creature, but the genetics are a little bit more askew.
I know somebody that's been within 3 foot of a werewolf. I don't know if he wants to elaborate on the size of its head.
What questions do you want to have? You want to know
I'll
how big this thing was?
I'll tell you right now, the creature that was standing next to the Bigfoot, 7 feet tall itself, but twice as wide as she was. So she was a big creature. She was at least 900 pounds, and that thing standing next to her being 7 feet tall and twice as wide, and it was like looking at Lou Ferrigno next to a puny little I would say Urkel. That's what I looked like next to the thing anyways. So
yeah, the werewolf I ran into.
You can imagine the power that something like that would have, and then the fact that it had the snout. It was a partial snout. It wasn't all the way out. It was a partial snout, and it opened its mouth so wide that I could see every single tooth, top and bottom, from where I was standing. And I was standing elbow to elbow almost with this thing. So you can imagine what those guys came upon, how intimidating it would be. You're used to coming up on other warriors that are the same size as you or smaller, and they've got weapons. So yeah, they can look intimidating, but for these things to not even have to have a weapon, all they have to do is grab you and twist, and you're gone. That would be intimidating even to a 7 foot tall Indian.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Pink Pixie has 2 good questions. Number 1, are Bigfoot and werewolves from the same family? Number 2, do they have double rows of teeth?
Well,
I have a buddy in Ohio that has gotten a cast from one of his Bigfoot that he researches, they bit into an apple and they left the double rows of teeth in the apple.
Oh.
I've read a lot about double rows of teeth. I would say it was very plausible. Another thing too, as far as them being in the same family, this is just my personal opinion. I tend to, as much as I've looked at and based everything on, I do believe you have the spider in the web effect. I believe that they are all related. I believe they all come from the same source. I believe that there was a war over the seed since the beginning with Satan and God. There has always been a war for the seed. And I believe that there was a corruption that happened to try to stop the birth of Christ. And during that, you have what I would call the spider in the middle of the web that goes out, that has all of these different cryptids, if you will, your mermaids, your little people, your giants, your, whatever you're dealing with. I think they all come from a perversion of the original creation. And that's just my opinion. That's just an opinion. I can't back it up factually. You can just, from what I did, is I just went off of what the Bible says and what I've witnessed personally. Just like Harold, he's a boots on the ground investigator. Jesse's a boots on the ground investigator. And like, what I was told, even in my investigative school, I can take a report from somebody and I can listen to them and I can use all the training they gave you, body language, are they telling the truth? But that doesn't always work. And it's not admissible in court for reasons of people react and act differently than other people. We don't all act exactly the same way. A person that's nervous may look down and right. That doesn't mean they're lying. There's so many other outside causes. So what we have to do is we listen to somebody, and nothing beats experience. That was what my boss told me. Nothing beats experience, feet in the field. You take everything that you've experienced and you put it together and you say, okay, is this feasible? Is there a motive? Did they have intent? Did they have a means to be able to do it? And then the who, what, when, where, how, why. And then once you can get through all of that, you still cannot believe that report that you took from somebody unless you physically witnessed it yourself. To me, they tell us the highest that you can get in believing something without seeing it is 80%. And that's pushing it. 80% is considered a high belief of probability. And that's, a high belief of probability without seeing something, to me, it's still not 100%. And I agree with what, you can go over and look at what Scott Carpenter did, what Travis Carpenter, is telling us about the DNA right now. And to me, I would even venture to say and go against all the rules. And I would say with what Scott and Melba and all those great investigators found is, I believe they put it up into the high 90 percentile that there is definitely a being involved, a father that is not normal, that us people at this normal plane, we are not aware of what it is. But I believe there is people that do know what it is. Entertainment purposes only. It's just an opinion.
I think you're good. You got it posted on the bottom, so
I'm trying to be good. We got to watch Christy though. Christy might get us in trouble. We're gonna have to watch her. She's a troublemaker.
Okay. When you say that people have experiences, and some people people probably will think you're lying out of your teeth or whatever. And the thing is that I go back to what my preacher or my minister says of what God can do for you. The only person that knows what God can do for you is you, and it's your testimony. So, like sometimes I'm absolutely 100% sure that what Harold witnessed that October in 2012, I think it was, right?
Mhm.
Actually happened to him, but I can't judge him or I can't say that it didn't happen to him. You know why? Because I was not there. One. Two, it's his testimony. It's his story. So if this really did happen, and I mean, because it's not really more documented, except for that Lefort actually did die with having his head ripped off, and that the Tubby light horseman actually did exist. Other than that, it's mostly folklore, the story.
Mm-hmm.
So, because there's no other accounts of it being real. So it's the testimony of the people that possibly ancestored lived it. You know what I mean? So
Right.
Right.
so
Yeah.
for me to say this is
Yeah,
real or
because
it's not real, I can't say that. It's
right.
a folklore to what I've seen, right? But
Right.
maybe
Well,
it
this
did
is
happen. I mean,
this is what I came up with, and you tell me what you all think, Harold, Randy, Jesse, and then we'll finish out what had happened. This is what I came up with, based on the evidence of trying to say that this happened or didn't happen, because I dug deep into that. I believe that there is a preponderance of evidence that what they say happened. And I will say the reasons that I believe that it happened. The reasons that I believe that this meets a preponderance of evidence, meaning more likely than not that it happened, is the Native Americans did not write down a lot of their history. A lot of their history was spoken in stories.
yep.
Seeing that this story has been passed on generation to generation and told by the Choctaw and the Cherokee tells me that there was something to it. Another thing that also makes me believe that there is a good likelihood of it is in the 1830s and up into the 1850s, they started trying to do their papers. They started trying to do the newspapers. There was an account of this published in the newspaper. For this to be able to make the newspaper at that point in time, it would have had to have had some tangible evidence to it to have been able to make the paper. Is there 100%? No. Does folklore play in the minds of everybody? Yes. Does everybody want to believe in something that's outside of the norm? Yes. But seeing that the natives passed it in their stories, and we know that is how they pass along their stories. They didn't do a writing. I would say I'd lean on more of this was an actual event that happened based on even the naming of the county that this happened in, and
Right.
that family did exist, the LaFleur County or the LaFleur family, and that the tribes existed that are mentioned. And the history seems to be right. The Trail of Tears and the Indian Removal Act, everything seems to uh, complement each other as far as a non-fictional story. And I'll let Harold, what do you think? I know
Well,
you studied it a lot more than I did. You were up all night and day.
well, you go you go into about LaFleur County. Now, the LaFleur family, very prominent people in the community. LaFleur's father was chief at one point. He was the chief of that band of Choctaw.
Mm-hmm.
And then LaFleur himself, being half Choctaw and half French, he was well respected not only within his tribe, but outside of his tribe. He was respected by everyone that he came across because he was a very put together person, and for him to have that much respect, and then their family have the county named after him, um, there had to be some truth. There had to be some truth to it, because why would they want to smear their name? And that's how I get at there has to be some truth to the story. Not everything in the story is true. That there's a lot of embellishment when stories get passed down through the years, but
Right.
the overall story, I believe, is true.
Jesse?
Fun fact, did you know that Bone Tomahawk was actually made based on the events of the Bigfoot War of 1855?
No, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Cool.
It's a good movie.
Squirrel, Jess. Squirrel. No.
So what was the question?
So, Jesse, I guess let me rephrase the question for Miss Jessie.
Caught her
So do you
napping
believe-
again.
Caught her again. Do you think that this story meets the preponderance of evidence that it's more likely that it happened than not? Do you believe that it's fictional, or do you believe there's enough supporting evidence to say that it is possible that this actually happened because of the supporting evidence?
I think that it is very much possible. Some of the newer information that has come out recently based on the older information that I had done research on originally has changed, maybe been embellished a little bit more for views or whatnot. But I think that all in all, it's more than likely that something definitely happened. So that's all I'm going to say because I don't want to get in trouble.
Mr. Petticourt.
I'm going to do a disclosure here. Anything that the U.S. government lists as mythology or legend is absolutely 100% historic record.
Sorry.
I would
I could get behind
concur
that.
with the
Yeah.
entertainment purposes only. So Christy, what is your opinion?
My opinion, did it happen? Absolutely. It happened, 100%.
Christy?
Well, I'm going to throw this out there. Yes, the Trail of Tears did happen. Yes, both my ancestors and his ancestors came over on the Trail of Tears. Yes, I am Choctaw Indian, Native American. Sorry. Did this happen?
That's cool.
The Lafort person passed away with him getting his head ripped to shreds. Yes, that did happen. The Tubby people or the Tubby family did exist. So that part of it is true. Did the creatures do it? Is that real? Do I believe in the creatures? I believe with what people have told me. Have I seen creatures? I've felt them. I haven't actually seen it to have my own experience of seeing them. So I feel them. With that being said, I think it's real and somewhat folklore. Just because, like you said,
I think that's good.
Native Americans tell their story or tell what happened from generation to generation to generation from story. Or if you really go and look at Native American, if they live in the land, they'll write their story on like mountainsides or in caves. Or is that correct? Yes, that's correct. So I'm sure somewhere down in LaForte County, there is remnants. Because if it actually happened, they said there was a mound of deceased. There has to be remnants somewhere down there. If it actually played out the way they say it played out.
The only problem with
And there's a lot of missing people.
the remnants you're talking about, right? Well, the remnants that you're talking about, just through forensic testing and stuff that the 3-letter agencies do, whenever you place a body in the woods, and just within a matter of weeks, the recovery process can be very, very, very hard to recover anything. They took a deer carcass, for instance, when I done my studying in school, and they took this deer carcass, and they took a cadaver, and they took them out in the middle of the woods, and they tied them to the ground, actually like wove rope over them, right? Mm-hmm. They put a camera on them to see how long it would take the wildlife to eat and disperse the bodies. Within a matter of just a few weeks, the recovery effort was almost zero. And the parts of the bodies that they did find were miles away. They even found parts of the bodies in owl nests that were roosting nearby that had feasted on the bodies and then had, the feces under the tree. So bodies don't last long in the woods that aren't protected. As far as missing people back then, I don't even know that they kept record of it. I mean, I'm sure that, a child went missing, the whole village knew, but as far as keeping record, because from what I could find, they said it was very, very still in the early stages of newspapers, and the newspapers were still trying to get established to even try to see if it was even going to work. But they should have known it was going to work, because there's a lot of people like Jesse that want all the gossip. So the newspaper took off. I caught her not paying attention.
No, I was just thinking back to, so what you're saying is if I want to hide a body, I don't actually bury it. I need to leave it out. Okay. So, yeah. Sorry.
Well, I mean, nowadays, if somebody goes missing, before weeks and weeks, there's a search party, and they have cadaver dogs that are really excellent at finding things now. But as far as like back in those days, I mean, if you think about it, they really didn't have the technology to, other than walking with a stick and trying to find somebody. Mm-hmm. They didn't have, the airplanes, the helicopters, the cadaver dogs. They even have electronical sniffers now. I don't know if y'all know that. They have electronic sniffers. Yeah. They can take these things out into the woods and turn them on, and they will suck air through them, and they will tell you within such and such, whatever it is, of where something's at based upon the smell being in the air. I mean, they can do some amazing things nowadays. It used to, well, they would probably back then they would call you a witch for using it and probably burn you at the stake because they wouldn't understand the technology.
Sorry.
Hey, I get called a witch anyways.
I get called. Never mind.
Yeah, I could tell Jessie was running late tonight. She parked her broom inside behind her. I always tease her about that. She said, "I'm getting a new backdrop."
I am. I'm putting a new one up.
What? It looks more Harry Potter.
So there was a question. There was a question for Harold and Christy I seen earlier I didn't get to.
Oh.
Somebody in the audience wanted to know, do you guys ever have trouble with the Bigfoot trying to get into your home or messing with your home?
Harold?
Yeah. I made a video. I made a short video on it on my channel about a juvenile Bigfoot attempting to kick the door in. We still have the hole in the door. We had the fingerprints on the door. I took pictures of all that. So yeah, we've had something try to get in. We've had them slap the side of the trailer, um, all that, So yeah, we have had them attempt to get in on multiple occasions.
Well, I'm being for real. That's my next transportation.
Awesome. When is it going to be here?
Wow, that's and another thing in this,
Oh,
in the Bigfoot War, they said whenever they did kill these creatures, it was a nightmarish blend of animal savagery and humans. They said even in death, the beasts seemed to exude an aura of malevolence, as their very presence was a violation of the nature and order and was considered an abomination to the point to where they were gathered and they were placed with the other bodies and burned.
Yeah.
So I guess
That
they
would
burned everything. They just piled everything.
That would have to have been one heck of a bonfire. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, it would. And
Yeah, I agree.
Would you want your hunting party to people that have never been there before, like the younger ones that are training to be part of a war party or part of a hunting party, later on come across any evidence of their people being slain? Just imagine the trauma that would be, because of the trauma they went through when that happened. Um, the the Tubies, they were never the same again. All the other warriors, they were never the same again. They had nightmares for the rest of their lives about this. So you can imagine if a young warrior is going out in a search party to look for an enemy, and they come across the possibility of having bones scattered, and you see that they're human, and then all of a sudden you think, hey, wait a minute, this is where my people were slain. It's going to distract them for one thing, and it's going to mess with their heads. So to burn all the evidence, I would see the point in doing so.
And what Harold said is exactly what I found too, Harold. I found that they said that the Tubby, the light horsemen, and the other warriors reported having vivid and terrifying nightmares to the point to where some of them even unalived themselves.
I was just going to say it.
I mean, go ahead, Christy.
No, I was just going to say exactly what you said, that they had nightmares, and there's a lot of them that didn't go back out to war again, or no, they didn't. Because if I were to have seen that, I would have post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, think about all the military personnel that do, and then don't know how to cope with it, and then they do means of the unthinkable because they don't know how to tell anybody, or it's a real thing. So
Yep.
So yeah.
And another thing, I think Jesse will find this probably interesting, probably too. It says, after the war, the Choctaw, Cherokees, the Tubies, and all found themselves grappling with a new and unsettling reality. The creatures they had encountered, which seemed to defy all known laws of nature, had shaken their understanding of the world and their place within it. Some spoke of ancient legends, dark omens, while others whispered of curses and malevolent spirits in the woods, because at this time, for the first time in the tribes' lives, they started dealing with orbs.
Oh, that is interesting.
Was it from the family that got by the creatures then? or the creatures
I don't know.
themselves?
So wait, the first time in the tribal history that they've had orbs, or the first time?
First time in history that any of them had seen orbs. Even the farmland people had never seen this. It was something that they said was, let me find it again. Even the townspeople called these things evil omens, spirits, and spells that had been cast upon the forest for the slaying of these evil, malevolent creatures.
Okay, okay, that is interesting.
I have a few pictures of some orbs that I'll be putting up on my channel. So happen to have my dad's face in them. So I'll
Wow, I'm definitely going to check that out.
one
So what do
picture
y'all?
one picture of an orb is up close in the orb, and it used to have my dad's picture. It used to have my dad's face in the orb until I showed that picture to a buddy of mine that does paranormal research. And right after I showed him the picture, my dad's face disappeared, and it still hasn't come back in that picture.
Yeah, you were talking about that the other night on your show too, right? Okay, I'm just making sure I didn't have deja vu.
But I'll make a short video to post on my channel with those orb pictures.
Okay.
That'd be cool.
And Randy's been putting your all's link throughout the show in the
I
chat.
know.
That
I
way people
saw
can
him. I
find your
told him
channel.
thanks. He was
Yeah, Randy's
rocking
awesome.
it out, man.
So where do y'all think that the orbs came from killing these creatures? Do you think that is it possibly because these creatures were killed? Did it defy and aggravate some disembodied spirits that may have been related to the physical spirits?
I believe that the orbs are of the spiritual realm. Whether Bigfoot can go from one realm to another, that's debatable. Do I believe that we have a tendency to appear as an orb in our spirit form? Yes, I do, because I've seen it myself. But I've never seen a Bigfoot turn into an orb or an orb turn into a Bigfoot myself.
I've never witnessed that either through all of my encounters. I've never seen that happen.
But I do believe it's possible.
Right.
Especially no, never mind.
I'll give an opinion. I'll throw it out there just for the sake of discussion and chat for everybody, and I'll give my opinion. I have a theory based on everybody says everybody that has a cryptid encounter is going to 25% chance you're going to have a supernatural encounter. It leads me to believe, and opinion only, that if they come from the fallen angels, we know that during the flood, the Nephilim lost their lives. A lot of people believe they became the disembodied spirits. They became the demons. And if that is factual, and if that is really what happened, then your Nephilim would have had descendants called the Eliod. And if the Eliod are what we're dealing with, then it is quite possible, I think, that the disembodied from the flood, the demons, are related to the Eliod, the descendants of the Nephilim. So whenever one is killed, you're attacking the same family, which upsets the balance of what they are. And I believe that, in essence, can cause you to start having the supernatural attacks other than just the physical attacks, because the entities are the same. Again, I go back to the spider web, and they all coexist together. And maybe that's why in a lot of our spots that we cryptid hunt, that we not only have cryptids, but we have UFOs and orbs, because, these entities, we're told in the Bible, that they are banished to the dry places. Where are the dry places? They're the places where people don't go. So are we actually going into their territory, seeking them out? And, that could go on and on forever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. So you said, okay, you have me going now, Mike. Okay, so the Native American in this War of 1855, the Native Americans were brought to the Oklahoma Territory. They didn't choose to come there; they were forced to come there. What was there before the Native Americans were? The creatures, right?
Right.
The creatures had reign.
Right.
So if it's more like the Native Americans were infringing or attacking, I don't want to say attacking, but infringing on the creature's domain. So if that's the case, then I believe then the creatures were protecting what was theirs first. Because nothing else was there.
I agree.
And
I
could this be
100%
why?
agree. I believe that.
I had
And-
something to discuss as a hypothetical situation. Could the U.S. government found out about the creatures and use the Native Americans to move them there to deal with them or be killed by them? One of the two.
I wouldn't put it past them. I mean,
It's a possibility.
Definitely
Plausible.
plausible.
if the blankets
Yeah,
don't get you, the Sasquatch will.
I mean,
Yeah.
Sorry.
yeah, you got to watch out for the blankets because they got, they got the mumps in them, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, Christy, I think that whenever they brought the Native Americans to the place where these creatures were at, that there became a battle for survival, for water, food, medicinal plants, and there became a struggle. And when there becomes a struggle, if you have children and you have a family, you're going to take care of your family, and you're going to do things, that you normally wouldn't do under normal circumstances. There was an old saying, and I don't remember exactly when we done our investigative school, but they said like a abnormal reaction in an abnormal situation is considered a normal reaction. So whenever you're placed in a situation that doesn't make sense and you have to make a decision that doesn't make sense to be able to survive that situation, that is considered a normal response of the human body, because we are programmed to the very last second of life to survive. Our brain will shut down organs and take oxygen away from organs in our body just to try to preserve itself if the body's dying. We are programmed to survive.
Yep.
They used to talk about in the old days when they cut people's heads off that, they would still be able to see and blink,
Ew.
because the brain doesn't die immediately.
You have 7 seconds of sight after you lost it, and then your hearing doesn't go for, was it 2 or 3 minutes? Yeah.
That's why they say that after a person actually stops breathing, that you still talk to them, because then they still can hear you.
So
Sorry.
Things have the ability. Every living creature has the ability to adapt to their situations. That's a God-given ability. Otherwise, otherwise life wouldn't be able to sustain itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
True.
My question is, wary bunny. Yes, I do believe they can do that to an extent through the adaptive camouflage theory. My question would be to you. I'm going to throw this to Harold and I'll throw this to Harold and Christy and Randy, and I'll leave you out of this one, Jesse. I'll let you slide. I'm not going to throw you into the bus on this one. But since you all live in Oklahoma, what do you all believe makes Oklahoma a hot spot for this activity? What do you believe puts us on the map as having such hot spots for this kind of activity?
Well, all of the one thing is all of the untouched wilderness. The amount of wilderness that's out there, and that includes all of the United States. Thousands upon thousands of acres of untouched area, places that humans have never stepped foot in. Even in a small state like Oklahoma, this state's not that big, but the amount of acreage that man hasn't even touched is unbelievable. And that would make it a great possibility that something like that could roam through the ages, through centuries, without being seen, without being heard, without being anything, any sign of them. There's places where Bigfoot has been seen, but they don't leave traces. They don't leave traces anywhere. How are you going to track it?
Mm-hmm.
It's because they take off into the woods. They know that man doesn't have the ability to cover as much ground as they do. And I know that we have Bigfoot. I know that we have Dogman. I know that there's all kinds of cryptids. I could go on and on that have existed even before us. And we have to share this world with them to a point, because there's a whole big world out there that they don't have to let us come into if they don't want. And Bigfoot has done that before in the past with some people, not allow them to come into the woods.
Sorry.
They will do whatever it takes. It leads back to the War of 1855. They will do whatever it takes for them to survive.
Christy?
Well, kind of going off of what Harold just said, most people think Oklahoma's flat. Oklahoma ain't flat. Oklahoma's got mountains and hills, and it's not where the wind comes sweeping down the plain. Yes, that's the song. But Oklahoma it's not just plains. It's got, the mountains. It's got Gloss Lake. It's got Glass Lake. It's got Mount Scott. It's got the Ozark Mountains. It's got the Ouachita Mountains. It's got the Wichita Mountains. So it's not all flat. So the creatures have places to hide, even if we can't. I mean, as much as we want to go exploring or researching, we ain't going to be able to do it all. I mean, this big old girl can't go climbing. That's for sure. And I ain't about to. So there's a lot of places, like Harold said, that it's untouched. And Oklahoma's not flat. It's got very much mountainous terrain, caves and hills, and
not to mention the climate.
Well, that too. Hotter than molasses in the summertime.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that from being up in northeast Oklahoma. It's not Minnesota cold, and it's not the desert hot, but it's humid sometimes and hotter than molasses in the summertime, 100 degrees. I ain't gonna go out in the 100-degree heat. I'd die. My medicine wouldn't let me. So sorry, that was a little side note. But yeah, it's It's different places. And Oklahoma's not flat. It's hilly and mountainy and
Not to mention the when you talk about the climate, you talk about the mountainous regions and the flat plains. Just think of all the variety of food sources for an animal of that stature. Um, to have rivers and lakes and creeks that no man has ever stepped foot on, has ever attempted to even take a boat in because they're so remote. Well, that's what it takes for. That's what it took for the mountain gorillas to survive. They weren't discovered until what, 1901, and they've existed for a millennia. Scientists have come to find out that those things existed around the same time we originated. And they hid for that long. So something like a Bigfoot could do the same.
I'd agree. Randy?
Well, I don't know if Oklahoma is the only hotspot. It's where we got more data. I think if we had more data, you're going to find that these creatures are everywhere. It's just, you're just now getting data from this state. If we were to get more data, I've listened to thousands of stories over the last few years of creatures found all over the world. And if 20% of these stories, just if 20% of those stories are true, these creatures are everywhere. Why is Oklahoma a hot spot? I would have to say based on how much territory and land that is open. If you drive around the countryside, there's a lot of land that's not occupied by humans. There's wide open land here, plenty of water and feed around where I live. There's all kinds of lakes and ponds and streams and massive amounts of white-tailed deer. We're talking tons of them. You could easily feed a large super apex predator, probably an entire family of them, or family of them, based on the food and water source here alone. They'll never have to touch the farmer's cattle because there's too much other food that's not going to draw attention. I've been walking out in the woods and stumble across just bones of deer. We're talking thousands of dead deer, just bones. Now, what killed it? I don't know, but I didn't stick around to find out either. I got the hell out of there. I walked into like wherever some large predator was.
Another.
Go ahead, Mike.
And I think it's because also Oklahoma has, like what you said, we have so many different ecosystems. We have hills, we have mountains, we have caves, we have valleys, we have swamps, we have lakes. We have an open seaport, for God's sake, in Oklahoma. And one of the things I believe that helps these creatures survive and live and hide is, I believe they come from the fallen angels. You're dealing with Nephilim descendants of the Iliad that have angelic powers. What do they have? Who knows? Some probably have more than others. I mean, it doesn't always equal out the same whenever everything's born. Some people are blessed with more gifts than others. And excuse me, I think some can do more than others, but I do believe that there is an angelic power to these creatures. I believe they do have abilities beyond our abilities that allows them to be able to do things we're not sure how they do. But I was thinking about this when we was talking about exactly what Harold said. We have a lot of land, like Christy said too, that nobody steps foot in. If you drive around in October, November, December, and you look at the deer hunters here in Oklahoma, you can drive down the road and there ain't none of them over 100 yards out in the woods. They park their truck, they walk 100 yards, they climb a tree. Nobody hunts the brush no more. Nobody hunts the river bottoms no more. Nobody wants to walk through all that. And why? Because our deer populations are so overrun right now, you don't have to. And by it being like that, it keeps people out of the woods, and whatever's down in there can flourish and do whatever it wants to. That's just my opinion.
You need to come hunting up here because that's not the way it is up here.
I was just ready to say it. Not the way in Minnesota either, but
Oh yeah, okay. Minnesota, Wisconsin, yeah, same difference. That's not the way it is up here.
Sorry.
I mean, here in Oklahoma, and I don't know if it's like where Randy's at, I could literally go drive down on government land, walk 100 yards out, sit by a tree, and I'd have my deer before noon.
What's the fun in that? Sorry.
Well, let's see. You got backstrap, you got jerky.
Well, I mean, compared to actually going out into the woods, setting up your
Yeah.
See, and I'm different, and I'm different than a lot of people with that because I don't do it for the horns or for the fun. I'm a meat eater. I'm the type that if it, I'm going to eat it. I'm thinking steaks, backstrap, throwing it on the grill.
You're making me hungry for venison. I haven't had venison in years. You're making me hungry for venison.
I love venison. That's like what Larry Fisher is saying, the backstrap. Yeah. I mean, I love to throw that on the grill, and I'll put a little bit of that slap your mama on there, and oh man, it's so good. I love that stuff.
Again,
but
making me hungry.
But Oklahoma, we have a lot of native history, and I think that there is a link between the native history and the things that's going on. I think there is a link. I don't know what it is, but I think there is a link. But guys, that's pretty much everything I've got for the show. I've had y'all over almost 2.5 hours. I get to talking. I never shut up because I get interested. You guys are such a pleasure to have on the show. I really enjoy talking to you and Christy because you all have such good talking points, and we really, really enjoy having you guys. We can't say enough about you guys, and I would encourage everybody to go support you guys. I think you guys are awesome. I really do. I appreciate not just your channel, but the friendship that we have acquired over working together. It means a lot to me. So I just wanted to tell you all that before we leave tonight.
Thanks.
Thank you. We appreciate that. We feel the same way about y'all. We really enjoy coming on y'all's show, and we enjoy having y'all on ours. And
considering that we went an extra hour last Wednesday?
Yeah.
Because you guys popped in an extra hour. That's how much we love y'all.
It's good for your algorithm. See, it's boosting your algorithm.
Yeah. But we never run out of anything to talk about because we could talk for hours upon hours, and that just makes it that much more enjoyable that we have constituents that we can talk about just about anything with. It makes for a good family atmosphere. It makes for a great round table and great discussions.
Or a square box.
Yeah, square box too.
Yep, I agree. We could go on and on and on, and we are definitely going to have you all back because I think there's so much more to be discussed, to talk about and to learn. And Christy, she needs to get more active. Christy has a lot of good input, a lot of good questions, a lot of good open-ended questions that really make you think. And I love when somebody can really make you go down that rabbit hole. And we're just going to get her, and Harold, we got to get her and Jesse to study more. That's going to be the issue.
I think Jesse needs to come to Oklahoma. We can go paranormal investigating in Guthrie. Where they claim to have a lot of abnormal things.
I do have to get on her side for this because she was studying. She was paying attention to what I was watching, but then she started getting information about her family her ancestors
that were
being
part of it.
from that area. That quite possibly she has
Oh.
direct ancestry leading to that exact area. So she got.
You're going to
she
have
got
to
in
follow
that.
up on that,
was
Christy.
squirrel, huh?
You're going to have to follow up on that and let us know if you have any kind of direct information.
Well, the thing is that I have so many. It's crazy. You would think putting in one name in an ancestry thing would just stop there. And no, it went spider web, and I'm like, my great grandpa, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So my head's spinning right now, and I've only got like a 14-day trial. I may have to buy it after the 14 days just to continue my search. But yeah, it went. I really went squirrel earlier, and I've only had it for like a day and a half.
Yeah.
So
Yep, that'll happen.
anyway, but
Yeah, it turns out one of her
And Randy,
ancestors.
you was wanting to say something?
Oh, go ahead.
About the link you're
Sorry,
looking
we got a
for.
little bit of lag. Sorry.
The link, can you hear me now? The link you're looking for, it's in the bloodline.
the bloodline.
Oh,
The
okay.
bloodline which is attracting these things, I do believe, to the Native Americans. I think there's some kind of ability that the Native Americans have to see into the supernatural realm. My opinion.
Oh, that could be.
What do
Maybe
you
it's a
think,
gift
Jesse?
from
Can you,
our Heavenly Father. Maybe that's a gift from our Heavenly Father.
But knowing that the Native Americans actually believe, Father, Mother Earth and whatever as well, that could have a lot to do with the way they believed, because they believed in not just God, but
And it's all about
and-
giving respect to everything that
Right.
that was put on here for us to partake of.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
that's what I think too. I think there's a lot of things out there that we don't understand, and I'm just glad that I'm going to be able to get back out there, boots on the ground. I've been really wanting to do that, and I think a lot of y'all has been wanting to see that too. But before we end, Harold, Christy, I want to give you all the floor. I want y'all to tell everybody how to find your channel, what y'all are talking about over there, the plans you got coming up, and let everybody know what you're all about, because I think y'all's got an awesome show over there.
All right, thank you. Yeah, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on TikTok. You can find us on Facebook. If you look up O.C.S.T, that's O.C.S.T. Oklahoma Cryptids Search Team. If you type that in on everything except TikTok, it's OK Cryptids. You can if you have any sort of story you want to tell us, or if you want to appear on our show, you can email us at harbudm1972@gmail.com. And
again,
we
you all have a great show too.
Yeah, we will answer any and all emails or messages that we get. Yeah, we think the same
All
way.
right, guys, I'm gonna.
We think the same way about y'all show.
Well,
you guys have a great show. Your evidence, your way of presenting things is excellent, and you have a great audience. We've come to know a lot of the audience, and that's what keeps us coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Good people all the way around. You guys are good. We got the best subscribers in the world. You guys, us, our core supporters. I don't think we could ask for anything more. I'm going to let you and Christy run. I've had you on here almost 2.5 hours, but we're going to have you all back soon. And if we can do anything to help you guys, reach out to us anytime, any of us. We will do what we can do to help you guys, and we will definitely have you all back. And we're going to have to pick another subject that we can all pick apart. But again, thank you guys so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you guys so much, and it's always a pleasure to be in the company of you guys. So thank you very much for coming over to the show.
Yeah, same thing. You can hop over on our show anytime. You can get a hold of us anytime. Talk about whatever, anything cryptid or even just
The stuff.
life things. You know. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much for showing up.
All right. Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Bye.
Good night. Good night, everybody.
That was an awesome show, if I say so myself.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
I really enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun. Christy's got a lot of good questions. She's got a lot of good open-end questions. She made me really have to dig there for a little bit.
That's good. You need that.
Everybody, don't forget tomorrow night again at 7:30 p.m. We're going to be doing another breakdown from a family. It's going to be a wild one. It's scary. It's one of those ones like we've been doing, and I hope I get more in. I haven't got any more in. This is the last one I have, unless somebody sends one in. But we're going to put it out tomorrow for everybody. I think everybody's going to really enjoy it tomorrow. It is another deep, dark, suspenseful mystery. Should be fun. And a lot of you all may be able to relate. Jesse, if you would start walking us out of here, and we will end this one. We will wrap it up, Randy. We're going to wrap it up. And Randy, you hang on at the end of the show, and I'm going to play the countdown just for you so you can see it again.
I'll need a brief refill on my drink.
Okay.
Well, thank you everybody for being here. We appreciate you all. We wouldn't be here if you guys weren't here with us. So appreciate you, and I love to see all the new faces and all of the regulars as well. Hope everybody has a blessed evening and a blessed week, and hope to see you back here tomorrow. Good night. Randy.
The Abnormal Investigation Channel, shining a light into the darkness, revealing the truth about the real world we live in. We want to thank Harold and Christy for tuning in and being on the show. We appreciate all the information that they shared with us tonight, and we hope they come back. Mike, we enjoyed the story that you share as well. And Jessica, we love you too. Sorry Mike picks on you so much. Maybe he'll get over that. But you know how he is. You know, if he didn't like you, he wouldn't pick on you. So, you know, if he's not picking on you, he don't like you that much. That's my opinion.
Jesse's a good person. Jesse's a good person. I don't care what people say about her.
We love all you guys. And
Love
we
you
love
too.
that. We love, and I'm grateful for everyone who tuned in. We couldn't do this show if it wasn't for the people making this possible. And that's all the people listening to me right now talk. Thank you. God bless each and every one of you. God bless your family. And good night. Don't let the werewolves bite.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, I want to thank everybody for showing up. I want to say, Hunter, I love and miss you so very much. Wish I could see you every second of every day, every minute. I dedicate each and every show I do for you, buddy. This one, Wide Open, they're all dedicated to you. I love you. If I could see you, I would see you. But unfortunately, lies have separated us, and we'll get these lies straightened out, and we'll be back together again someday. I want to thank each and everyone for showing up to support this, because he's right. Without you guys, this show could not happen. This show depends on the support of our subscribers, our core supporters, because without you, we couldn't be here. Guys, the videos we put out each and every day that you all watch and you smash the like button on, that is what keeps us up so that we're able to do these lives in the boots on the ground, because those small videos are a huge part of these lives that we bring to you, because they keep the algorithm to where we're able to bring you this material and where we're able to grow and to reach new audiences to share the truth and not the way straight to hell. Um, with that being said, I'm just going to say that I feel blessed with this channel. I feel blessed with the company we have here, with the people that's here, and it feels like family. And I enjoy each and every night we all get to spend it together. That really does mean a lot to me. There's been times that some of us haven't been in the best of moods whenever we would come on, and later on, we're in a great mood because we got to spend it with you guys. And so I hope we're able to help you guys as much as you've helped us. And with that being said, Randy, don't run off, guys. We're going to end the show. Don't forget Purple Hearts for Hunter at the end. And Randy, here is the countdown I made for you, just for you, so you can enjoy it at the end of the show. Thank you, everybody. We love all of y'all. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7:30.
Good night.
That's really good, Mike.